and we will move to the panel discussion. And it seems that we're on time, and I'm happy about it. As a moderator, it seems that I'm doing my job. So we're moving to the panel discussion, which has even a typo in the name, which is failing to identify. So failing to identify the identity. And today with us, we have 3 panelists. We have Eglė Vitkutė, who is representing the critical agency. She's as you already know, senior researcher and strategist at our agency, who is actually very deeply involved in various cases of identities, city identities, very sensitive ones. So she does the research part, and she also translated for the design because she has a design background. So she's unique in our agency, having those 2 backgrounds and trying, translating one into the other. So also on the panel is Girmantas, who we met and we worked a lot on the Klaipėda city identity case, and he was like crucial and instrumental for the identity to be where it is now. And he was in charge. He was the as far if I'm correct with the tagline, he was one of the executives, I think chief marketing officer at the Klaipėda ID, the agency that was responsible, was in between the various stakeholders and the municipality and our agency. So he will carry his knowledge and his experience, and he was also a pro surfer and many other entrepreneurial perspectives that he has. And maybe he'll tell a little bit about the what he's doing in Mexico. It's also related to identities. And we have Justina, who is the partner and urbanist at Pupa Agency, with whom we worked a lot on the Mariupol case that Jonas recently was discussing and talking about. And she gave us the infrastructure and urbanist perspective on the city and how we can engage that narrative that we have revealed into the city itself, into the tangible objects. So we have 3 panelists, and I want to start with a very simple question. What comes into your mind when you hear the word identity? Because you have different backgrounds. When you hear the word identity, it's, it is an uncharted territory. But from your perspectives, it gets a particular form. So Girmantas, maybe I want to start with you. So identity, how does it sound? What does it mean to you?
Well, first of all, hello everyone. And I'm glad to be here and share my experience. When we talk about identity, I liked what Jonas touched on his first presentation, that it's about authenticity. What I really liked recently when I discovered that Instagram made 66 million by selling blue check marks, right? So everybody wanted to identify themselves as someone important, someone recognized, and then suddenly everyone became just wearing the same blue check mark. So I think, identity is about finding what separates you from others and embracing that difference, just being unique.
Thank you. Justina, what about you? How does it resonate in your mind?
When you invited to talk in this panel discussion, I thought, what is actually identity for urbanists? And I thought that actually when we do urban projects, we always think of identity, but we never use the word identity. When we have a place, so let's say a park, a neighborhood, a city, when we start working in it and when we start thinking what could be the future of the area, how could it be redeveloped, we think, what is the vision? Actually, the vision is the major word that we use. We also think, what is the character or what is the idea of the development? But then I thought that actually vision, character, idea, it's all about identity. So that we work with it every day. When we do the projects, we try to find what is identity of this space and what the new identity should be. So yeah, we work on that. Maybe I can elaborate a bit later.
Thank you. And Eglė, what about you? I don't know, even though we work a lot together, and I don't know what you will say now. So I'm curious too.
Well, in a way, it depends a lot in which context we talk about identity, because we talk about identity when we talk about ourselves, when we talk about the cities, organizations, etc. But similarly, like Girmantas said, I also think that it's a set of particular features that make an object, a subject, distinctive from its surroundings, from elements like similar to that one. But I don't see identity as a fixed thing. Basically, I see it more as a dynamic essence of different dimensions, and those dimensions change according to the context. So if we talk about the city, as we talked also before, it might be cultural, economical, environmental, and social dimensions. If we talk about an organization, it's already a different context, and we will consider different dimensions. But what's an identity, according to me? It's the essence, of these elements, and what it comes from.
Thank you. You all have different experiences and vast experience in dealing with uncertainties, with different challenges. I'm curious, do you remember any ridiculous challenges or ridiculous moments that happened through the process of revealing identities, researching identities, or maybe even, I don't know, Girmantas, maybe something related to what you were thinking of when you invited us for a dialogue about the city in Mexico? Maybe there was also a story. So maybe a little bit of a story related to a process of revealing identities. So I want to start again with Girmantas because, start with you.
Well, we briefly spoke before the panel about the aspect of failing. And I think identities, especially complex identities like city identity, in essence is designed to fail because it's unique to every single person, and we might have 150,000 different perspectives in terms of Klaipėda. It means that 150,000 people will look at it completely different with their own cultural background, with their own educational background, and so on. So by trying to be unique, you will definitely will not succeed to represent everyone. So in a way, it's going to be a big challenge to find those things that actually unite different stakeholders when we talk about city identity. But at the same time, it is something that's very challenging because it's also hard to identify who are the actual stakeholders. And in a way, you could anticipate that politicians have the mandate via the democratic process, via the election, to make decisions and decide what is the right thing for, strategical development or whatever. But it's also not always the case. It's always, especially, at least in our case, we had a lot of, different currents, underwater currents, and so on that wanted to, perceive and then save the status quo and just avoid any change. It's even though change is inevitable in our life, some people try hard to resist it. So I don't know. I think when you were asking the question, I thought about this one particular moment in our process when the city image committee at the municipality decided that they want to be on the jury, let's say, to decide which way should the project move forward. But when I offered that the only let's say requirement for you to be on the jury panel is to sign a non-disclosure agreement with a fine that was a total of our tender value, basically as an insurance. If anything gets leaked before the process is finished, someone has to cover the loss that city experienced by basically executing this project. And then not a single person got back to me even asking to see the non-disclosure agreement or whatever, and the entire city image committee dismissed themselves from the project. So this was something that I'm in a way I'm happy about the way we were able to structure it and put that hurdle, let's say, in their way of trying to sabotage the project or whatever. But on the other hand, it also shows that, you know, most people, they talk a lot and they want to be heard, but they don't want to have their skin in the game.
Yeah, I remember certain moments too. Maybe I'll share them later. But yeah, it was an interesting journey, and also it was very interesting that because there were many parties involved, and each party was not telling all the difficulties during the process, you know, not in order to manage and buffer everything. And later on, when we had dinner and we understood how many complexities and how many things were happening at the same time at certain moments, and they were transformed into the result that we have, which is, I'm very happy about it. So Justina, now the same question to you. Any stories and challenges or related to revealing identities, working with cities, that you could share with us?
Maybe I will share a story from Klaipėda as well. It's not about the city. The project was about the neighborhood in the city. Now, when you presented, some of your colleagues presented the identity of Klaipėda. Well, I really love the design, the graphic, the story, the videos that you showed, and the images. And for me, as not someone from the city, Klaipėda is that what you showed. It's a sea, it's pines, it's old town. It's like very nice and beautiful. However, if you look at the map, like biggest part of the city is covered by large-scale housing estate, very boring, very monotonous, all gray, all the same, and more than half of the populations are living there. So let's say the majority of the city has nothing to do with the sea and with the landscapes. However, when we talk about the city, every citizen relates himself with what is the best in the city: the landscape, the culture, the history, the landmark, whatever. However, there is another identity of the neighborhood. So we were working on a project which is housing area, very old, really unattractive, and that was a project about public space and about a park. So we couldn't create anything related to the bigger city identity because it's like a bit too far away. Like it's another unit, another life is happening in those large housing areas. And when we were creating the identity of the the urban public space of that neighborhood, we had public participation meetings. It was very interesting because the area is quite old, the neighborhood, so majority of participants who came to the meetings were older people, and it was interesting to hear that they had completely different needs than the young people who are living in the area. Yeah, and then we were doing design of the park, which combined the places for calm recreation, places for youngsters, places for walking, and the project is already implemented like 2 or 3 years ago. And what I hear from people, let's say, who visit the park, or when I'm in the Klaipėda and who are in the park, so they tell that somehow the neighborhood got its identity. It was as the same as all the others, the gray and a bit boring and a bit old, but the public space and the things that you can do in the public space and with the people created its different local identity, which is like around that park. So my story.
Thank you. It seems that even though we haven't planned it, but Klaipėda took over the panel discussion somehow now, even though we haven't planned it. So let's see where it leads us. Eglė, what about you? Maybe not even one story, maybe a couple of stories.
Exactly, a couple of stories came to my mind, and one of them happened during the workshop of revealing identity of Panevėžys, city identity of Panevėžys, that Eugenijus mentioned before. And during the workshop, where with the communities that were invited to participate, it was also still an online workshop. And for instance, there was a situation that one of the participants made really inappropriate comments about other citizens of the city, some racially inappropriate comments. No, so just to share this, this background dynamics between these processes. So you have to deal also with these kind of situations in those workshops. And it's not easy because, personally, you maybe, would like to react really, sharply and openly, but you have to manage the conflict, you have to manage the situation. So these things happen. It happened during the revealing an identity of the Panevėžys workshop, and it was challenging, but it's like, it's the thing. So that was one story. And the second one was just, maybe a bit more positive one during the workshop that actually we did together with you, Dominykas, when we were working on the Klaipėda identity case. What was nice and surprising for me that during the workshop, suddenly a metaphor of breathing appeared from the participants. We somehow arrived to mentioning, breathing together in the rhythm of the sea. We kind of, let us drift a bit in the reflections of what we just said, and how this breathing concept came out. And what's interestingly that it followed in after when we were doing also with the analysis of all the information gathered, it really made sense. It followed us throughout the process of sense making, and it became part of the city's narrative. So just another detail to notice that sometimes it happens that you have this mountain of information, but sometimes one word said by one community member but shared also by others, you can feel that it's shared, how others react, how others reflect on it, can also help to actually form the city narrative.
Thank you. Yeah. Maybe I won't go into a story myself, but I just want to reflect a little bit on what was changed for us when we started doing the workshops online virtually, and how physically you have a totally different dynamic, and you can feel different textures, different in betweens that can translate into information. And when you do that virtually, it's you have to adapt to that with all the technical difficulties that we already experience here now also, but with all the besides that, others with not having those 5 senses involved and trying to adjust to that and framing the architecture of the research and the engagement process differently. So that's and it had many also stories related to that. One, Eglė knows that, or maybe I'll share that, even though he said that you don't want me to share, but at some point. But it was a funny story. I remember that we had the engagement session, and Eglė was something happened with her mic, and everybody was speaking, and Eglė was facilitating the event, and she was saying, "Oh, so nobody's speaking? So let's move on." And everybody's like, "Hey, we're saying that and that," and she's like, "Nobody's speaking," and I'm sitting across the table, and I'm trying to give her some notes, some sticky notes that, "Hey, they're speaking," and it was like, "Oh no, I wasn't there. I was texting to Eugenius for him to give the notes to Eglė." So I remember that moment, but Eglė said that. I think it's funny, and it was like I really enjoyed that. But sorry, Eglė, I think it's a funny story, and it shows the difference between virtual engagement and physical one when you have those difficulties that you even cannot, solve in certain situations, and it has to happen at that moment. The other question, and maybe a broader question that I would like you to think about, and then tell the audience and me, because we're talking about the failing perspective, and what would you say are the 3 key ingredients for the process to fail when we're working with identities, trying to reveal it, engaging participants, maybe, and so on and so forth? What would you say from your professional expertise, from your experience backgrounds? What are the 3 key ingredients that ensure that the process 99.9% will fail? So, Eglė, let's start with you.
Okay. So there are really many ingredients that would, fail the process. So it's even hard to choose 3, but let me think. So first one would be like asking wrong questions to wrong people. So basically, or involving, somebody that's not complete, like not related to the case, or that the case is not, like the question is not relevant to them, So if you ask, questions that are not relevant to people that do not care, you will not get usually quality results, and even dialogue, might fail. So yeah, that would be maybe one. And it's also connected to the second one. So how you ask questions, how you create a comfort, like basically the situation to ask questions, and also how do you ask questions, like from the communication point of view. If you ask too difficult questions, you use like complicated formulations, so it might be complicated, for people to participate. They actually won't have the access possibility to participate in a quality way. And at the same time, I think the third one is creating, like you guys are creating the atmosphere, the context in which this dialogue or engagement, happens. So it's really easy, it's hard to create it online, as you mentioned. So basically, if the online environment, for instance, is not technically ready, not technically appropriate, or the staff is not unprepared in this way, so it's also really, really easy to kind of have the process, compromised. And at the same time, in the physical space, it's nice to do workshops and engagement in different contexts, but being in the space always means that you're in interaction with the space, with the surroundings, with people around. So there might, some unexpected things happen all the time, like, so yeah, basically that may be three aspects.
Thank you. Justina, what about you?
Very funny question, because usually you would expect a question, how not to fail, the 3 tips and tricks. So while Eglė was talking, I thought of some that leads to failing. So the first one, I would say, let's say in my profession, and I came although I'm urbanist now, but my background is architecture. So the first failing is if you come with too big architect's ambition. Well, we are taught in architecture university that, everyone wants to be a star architect and to be to build something like huge and that everyone can remember. So if you come to a place, to a city, to a client, to a neighborhood, whatever, with the idea and this ambition to do something grand and big, probably you will fail. So that's my first failing lesson. The other one, then I thought that not listening enough and not hearing would be fail, but actually then I thought listening to the loudest speaking ones is also about failing. And I remembered one case on the project in Gargždai. It's a smaller town next to Klaipėda. We were doing regeneration plan for the city center, and the city center has very big market. And we're doing this public participation events. Everyone was talking what they want to see in the city, how they want city center to change, and basically they wanted it to change from like huge parking areas in the city into lively urban small town. But then in the events we had meeting with the market community, people who are selling things in the market, and the market is like really simple. So people are selling like vegetables, shoes, Chinese clothes, like whatever. And the meeting with them was such a fail because they were shouting on me. They were like gathering and making protests, and they were against many ideas, and they were pro like very simple ideas. So it would be that the continuation was that there were separate meetings with the mayor, with the team, and then we managed to come over this problem. But if we would listen to the ones who are the loudest ones, then then probably the decision would be a wrong one as well. So that's the other lesson.
Thank you. Interesting. Eglė, you answered it, and actually I would like to come back to you, but maybe with another question. Girmantas, the floor is yours to tell us the top 3.
Well, it is a complicated question, to tell you the truth. However, I think number one, following your process. And I believe that identity, even though this entire event and your experience is based around democratic and around inclusive design projects, I believe it is possible to create an autocratic, successful identity project as well as democratic. But then you have to identify that and you have to follow through all the way. If you try to mix those in between, something's going to go wrong. You know, like if you try to pretend being democratic but actually are doing it autocratically, it's going to be wrong. And if you pretend to be, you know, like to have the authority but you don't have it, it's also going to go wrong. So I think, like, you know, following the process and having a clear structure is number one way to prevent failure. Number two, I think, also not understanding your stakeholders is something that could lead you to failure. And understanding the stakeholders is also quite complex, especially when we talk about the identity. From marketing perspective, you know, the stakeholder is your end consumer. But when we talk about the identity, it's more important about who's going to implement it, who has the right, who has the legal tools to either approve it or decline it, who has the authority to give feedback or whatever. So not understanding the key stakeholders who can influence your process, it's definitely a big, you know, big risk of failure. And as for the third one, I don't know. We did everything right, so it's hard to figure out. But yeah, I think I want to reflect on what Justina said. You know, like with not going too big. Like, you can go big. You know, it's like you either go big or go home. So. But then again, you know, it's about following through. Oh, I got the third one. I remembered myself. I'm not believing in it. You know, like if not wanting it bad enough, it's also, you know, a way to fail. And you know, like in our case, we had people that really wanted, you know, the process to fall apart. But then Klaipėda AD, as the city development agency and as our core crew, we were like, you know, not a big team, but still we were really determined to make sure that we see this project through and we take it through to the very end. So basically, you know, not committing to the project, not committing to following through these steps. It's also, I think, a bit of a risk.
Yeah, thank you. And imagine now we have like 3 perspectives with 3 different backgrounds, and when we need to engage many of those, as Girmantas was saying, or in Mariupol case with Justina, how difficult is that? And then make sense out of it and find a story that actually is recognized by the same stakeholders, because it has to be recognized and they have to believe in it. Not 100% all of them, but for it to, you know, to start moving, it has to be believed and then acted out. And I want to touch a little bit, maybe probably you will say yes, but maybe to tell us why. Why is the trust important between the parties involved? So let's say, because we are different stakeholders when we're working on cases. So that, yes, we are the critical Eglė and me, but with Girmantas, you were representing Klaipėda ID. With Justina, you were representing the urbanistic perspective from Pupa agency. So how much the trust plays a role in the whole process between the parties involved who are working together. So I do understand that it's important, but why do you think it's crucial, or maybe less important, but why? So Justina, maybe I want to start with you, and you can tell, you know, from the work that we're doing together, maybe as an example.
Of course, the trust important, but I would say that what is important, let's say for me, for my team, it's also to have this fun with everyone that you are working with. And I talk about partners, but also clients, even with the stakeholders that you meet in public events. So this fun, and also I don't know how it's in English, like sympathy, that you like the people that you are meeting, that you admire them. If it's a mayor or I don't know, city architect or designers that you are collaborating. So I think nowadays working with people and having a nice time for me and for our team is equally important as delivering good product. But maybe it relates altogether, because when you work with people that you somehow have contact, then you enjoy the project more, you enjoy the process more, and then you're more enthusiastic, and the result is usually more enthusiastic. And then I would add that if people trust you less, or if they like the result less, with your enthusiasm, you can prove them that the result, let's say, is good or is worth. That's my idea.
I'm happy to hear that. Eglė, what about you?
So thank you for the question,
between
Dominykas.
partners.
Yeah, so thank you for the question.
Why do you think the trust is important between partners working together in this process?
Well, first of all, I'm really happy about the question, because as you know, actually the reason why we're here in Oslo is because we're doing an international project about trust making and empowering youth, trusting youth to become change makers of the city and to participate in a more quality way in city planning. And just again, from the Oslo experience, we noticed that, for instance, in Oslo and Norway, there are different, like trust manifests itself in very different ways. For instance, you go to pay, with a bank card, and you have to insert the sum of the money yourself. You can see it, but I mean, like people trust. You have to insert the number. So what I was just connecting, and kind of motivating why the topic is important. But to answer to your question in a more direct way, I think and I believe that trust as an exchange of feeling towards, in between different stakeholders, actors, is fundamental to empower them. Trust empowers. So if I feel trusted, I feel, how to say, more willing maybe to share my opinions, my ideas, something else. If I trust somebody else, I maybe open up in a more easy way. So trust empowers to act, to tell, and actions and really sincere communication then, makes a change, basically. So it's something that, in between, in the air, in the context, small things, kind of makes trust manifest in different contexts, but it empowers in a very different way in different contexts.
Yeah, empowering each other when trusting each other is crucial, because many challenges appear during the process, as Girmantas was telling in also Klaipėda's case. So I'm happy that we're here together, that Girmantas, Justina are joining us for this panel. So we are in a good relationship. So we trust each other, even though they didn't know a lot about the panel. They came and trusted us, to participate, and that everything will be fine. And Girmantas, now the floor is to you. The mic is to you. What do you think? Why the trust is important?
Well, from our perspective and the project that we did together, it was primarily extremely politically charged and sensitive, even I could say fragile project. So it was quite important to trust the partners and to explain that fragility to the interested parties who are involved in the project, to basically ensure that we are able to follow through, to follow the process and complete the project in a way that we aimed to achieve it. So I think that trust was also really important, but at the same time, I believe that this mutual trust is something that's crucial for a successful project, because the way I trust the designers that they're going to do their best, the same I would expect from the other team, that they know that I'm doing my best to make sure that this project is coming through and this project is going to be successful. And let's say both parties don't know half of the story. Both parties know only their part of the story. But building that trust and trusting your partners that you're in this together is something that enables to achieve those results and to achieve those award-winning results. So I think building that trust early in the process is very important.
Thank you. My questions are done. I have more, but probably not for today. I want now to give them more to each other, to each one of you, just to wish something for the audience who will probably in one way or the other will be related to revealing identity, designing it, researching it, managing the process. So just not an advice, just a wish for them to carry with them. So Eglė.
Okay, maybe it could be like go where the things happen. So be the context where things happen. Listen to people who care about the topics that you are working with, or you want to change, make a change. That would be, I guess, the main wish that I could. Also, the third one, be brave. Yeah, because then you need to have some bravery also to, you know, to approach and to kind of face the complexity that those engagement processes put you in. But yeah, that would be my recipe, I guess.
Thank you. Justina.
Maybe I would add that work with different people as well, like talk, sketch, brainstorm, collaborate with different minds that maybe sometimes are different than yours because they might have different perspective. And then the best ideas are born, when something unexpected meets. Maybe that would be my wish.
Thank you. Girmantas.
Well, in short, just do it, because that's gonna be the best way to have some fun and to learn something. You know, like sometimes you win, sometimes you learn, and basically, if it wasn't for the failure before us, there's a high probability we wouldn't have been as successful as we were. Funny story, when I joined Klaipėda AD team, we were discussing with the team like, hey guys, we have to think of something extraordinary for Klaipėda. We have to put Klaipėda on the map, or like come up with some crazy marketing ideas, to have some international recognition awards or whatever. But then the identity project was always there, but it was always like kind of overlooked because everybody knew how politically charged it was, and it was like more as a task to be completed, just to check mark and that's it. But then at the end of the day, when we found the right partners and we found the right process and we followed through, we ended up creating that award-winning result. So also it's the biggest opportunities lie right in front of you. It's just a matter of picking it up and just doing it.
Thank you. Thank you, Girmantas. Thank you, Justina. Thank you, Eglė, for sharing your experience and thoughts and insights and those wishes that I know the audience will carry with them, and they will reveal the identities that will transform for the better. So thank you. This was the panel discussion, and now the last word. Thank you very much, everybody who was here with us through the whole process. So we showered with identity. We got intimate with identity. 3 hours. It's a lot of time. It's a lot of time in this busy environment that we find ourselves. And I'm happy that you did that we did that we spent 3 hours on the important case. And I hope the shower was interesting, engaging, deep enough, and fun. And if anybody is interested in more about the identity, about the work that we're doing, or anything else that we were talking today, just drop us an email. You can find it in our website. And I hope see you soon. Thank you, and have a good day.